Where are we going? Yeah, I mean, college sports. Where the hell are we going? Yesterday a report came out that the Big Ten is seeking $2 billion in private capital. And I know that this is really interesting to people. You probably expected a Michigan State preview, but I've tried to read up on that stuff as much as I could. And what it is not is equity, private equity. So the Big Ten is not selling any parts of itself off to a private equity partner. They're just looking for an infusion of $2 billion cash, basically, or capital up front so they can do things. And the question is what the hell do you need with $2 billion? And I think, number one, if you're a Nebraska person watching this, Nebraska's athletic department has, despite all of the mistakes we've done in hiring athletic directors and coaches over the years, what we've done really well is be fiscally responsible. It's probably one of the most fiscally responsible. Well, it is one of the most fiscally responsible athletic departments in the nation. And they've done an excellent job at that. And it's really, without that, they'd be in really a lot of trouble. And you look around and there's other athletic departments that are in a lot of trouble in the Big Ten. I think Illinois has massive debt. UCLA has massive budget problems and money issues. I could go through them, but whatever. I think the question is, what do they need this money for? And I've looked at this and I've come to the conclusion that what they really need it for is because they suck at being business people. They really do. Most of these athletic departments are run by public sector people. And in the last, 6 months, this year, the House settlement came through, and now they have to give $20 million of their budget to players. Well, in the past, they've made this amount of money, and because they're nonprofits, they get to spend this amount of money. And now that oh my God, this amount of money we have to give it to these people over here, which I'm for, by the way. The players should be getting paid because they're the ones that are doing all the work. And I know people have a lot of opinions about money coming into football. Players, they're the ones putting themselves at risk. They're the ones doing the work. You've got these coaches making millions and getting God knows how many millions of buyouts because they fail. I don't have any It's a little over the top. It's a little crazy with the lack of control or the lack of any kind of substance to it. The portal, the transfers, the NIL money. But let's go back to athletic departments. All of that stuff is crazy, and I think all of that could be damaging to college sports because we don't establish an actual attachment to any of these players anymore. They just here one day and gone another, and yay. The NFL does a better job of this than college is doing right now, and I think it's very dangerous for the sport. Back to the $2 billion. I think it's because public sector people look at this and they go, oh my God, now we have to give away this part of our budget to these players when we usually spent this much, and it's $20 million and we need to make up for it. Instead of, and normally what you do in business when you have to make up for this is you cut costs, and that's usually people. In the case of athletic departments, it might be building Taj Mahal facilities and then having to pay for them and debt management, things like that. Like I said, it's probably a boring conversation to 98% of you. I've come to the conclusion that they think they need this money because they're all freaking out about they don't know how to handle this. They don't know how to handle we're in business now and we have to give away that budget and we have to make up for it some way. So we're going to sell our souls off to private capital because they're part of the deal is that they're going to extend their grant of rights to 2046. So what's that mean? That means that their media deal that would expire in 6-8 years, there would be a window to renegotiate at a higher rate for the Big Ten to bring in more money. But by God, we can't wait that long. So we are going to listen. Business, in order to give them $2 billion, wants to know that the conference is going to be stable for longer than 6 to 8 years. Therefore, grant of rights for a longer period would allow them that stability to pay any money back or to, earn back their money if they're going to give them $2 billion up front. I think this is a stupid deal. Well, one more thing before I get to this. There is one thing about this that I think is a good idea. at this point, schools in the Big Ten negotiate with Adidas or Nike, like Nebraska is Adidas or Nike school. I can't remember which it is because I don't care. Uh, that they negotiate it all on their own. If they pooled that together and said, we're going to be a Nike conference or an Adidas conference, they probably would make shit tons more money because they just have that much more leverage. That makes sense. One of the the other thing is Michigan, Ohio State out of this deal are going to demand more money out of this, which, I get it. Michigan, Ohio State have ruled the Big Ten for pretty much throughout its existence. And so they have this in their heads that we're the most important people within this conference. And by God, we deserve more. And they probably won't sign a deal where they don't get more. Now, if I'm the Nebraska AD and it comes to media rights and they're saying we need more, I am not signing that deal because fuck them. So maybe nothing will happen if we're smart about it. On the other hand, you have these other conference schools like UCLA or maybe Illinois. I don't know all of their athletic department problems, but maybe they will be desperate enough to go, yes, we need to sign this deal and get our little $2 billion extension up front and have some money, which really does, when you do all the math, I think it doesn't really come down to that much money. And that's my biggest problem with it, is you're doing all this. And while it's at $2 billion sounds like a lot, I don't think it is a lot. I think you should let the grant of rights expire in 6 to 8 years and do another TV deal, because I think sports is going to be worth that much more money in 6 to 8 years. If you really wanted money, some of you can't wait too long. So like a payday loan, oh my God, I got to have my money now. And then of course, putting yourself into deeper problems because you took this money up front. Now you have to pay the lender. My problem with the revenue sharing thing, where somebody gets more than others, when you go back to the NFL, look at the NFL today. The NFL is a massive, massive, massive entity, billions of dollars in sports, controls everything about everything that goes out around itself. And the reason for that is because back in the early 60s, Pete Rozelle became the NFL commissioner. And then one of the thing he did that made the NFL was he looked at the NFL teams and he says, we're going to stop negotiating TV rights on a per team basis, because that's what they were doing at the time. And we're going to start negotiating TV rights or media rights, TV rights then, as a league. And we're going to share revenue equally throughout that league. And what that did is it made sure that every team could stay healthy, because before that, NFL teams were going in and out of bankruptcy I don't have a reference, but they were going in and out of bankruptcy a lot. And that stopped that and allowed the NFL to grow into the league it is today. You know what else it did? It preserved a lot of history. For example, Green Bay would not, if they would have not shared revenue, there's no way that Green Bay would still be an NFL franchise. And I think that that's important to preserve those things and not only make sure that the playing field is level so that everybody can compete. And therefore, like I said, if I was the Nebraska athletic director, I wouldn't be signing deals like that. I do think sports will be worth way more money in 6 to 8 years. And here's my other problem with this. Look at me, I'm 63 years old. I work in IT. That makes me about 950 years old in IT terms. When I put systems together, I'm building them with the knowledge that I'll never have to bear the consequences of what I'm doing, unless I am a good steward for my customers. Okay? The people who are negotiating this shit right now are probably a lot of them like me. There are guys that are at the age at which they're not going to have to bear the consequences of when this all comes due later. They're not going to have to bear the consequences of having a TV deal that was going to expire in 6 to 8 years, expire in 2046, when they don't damn well they're all going to be retired. And that kind of shit, because I probably get myself in trouble here. I don't think my generation, I'm in the end of the boomers, has done a very good job of being stewards for the younger generation. I think we've, I probably shouldn't go too far down this path. You know what? They can't afford to buy houses. They can't afford to have kids. They can't afford healthcare. They can't afford to do most of the things that we took for granted. And I think a large part of that is because we really don't give a shit. Maybe I'm wrong. You can comment on that for sure. I'm sure a lot of you feel differently about it, but the problem that I have with doing any kind of deal like this is there's more money in college football coming into it with a bunch of people that really already have shit tons of money. They're just poorly managers of it. Like I said at the beginning of this, these are all public sector people that really never, probably most of them never ran a business, never had to deal with, actually being, I don't want to say judicious with money, but put it this way. As an IT guy, when I build systems and if they go down in the private sector, I'm rambling now, aren't I? Should just finish. Example, if we have like a bank or any company and they lose all their systems and we don't have good backups, for example, a building burns down and we don't have good offsite backups, that business is done. They're never coming back from that. In the public sector, if the University of Nebraska's athletic department for some reason like burned down or something happened to it where they lost all their data, they'd still be the University of Nebraska athletic department. And that's the difference between managing in the public sector and in the private sector. I know this probably bored the holy hell out of you, but it goes back to the central question is, where the hell are we going in college sports? I know a lot of people don't like the money coming into it because it ruins the romanticism, but it's an important topic, and that's my morning talk for today. Let me know what you think in the comments. I hope you're having a beautiful day. Take care of yourselves.